The starship Harmonious Traverse drifted through the outer edges of an unremarkable yellow star system. Inside the observation deck, Kirchhoff adjusted his optical sensors and studied the third planet from the sun. Blue and green swirled across its surface beneath white clouds. His secondary hearts beat a little faster with excitement. "It looks perfect," said Veltrin from beside him. The young xenoanthropologist had only been on 3 survey missions before this one. Everything still amazed her. Kirchhoff was more cautious. He had been surveying planets for 40 cycles. Perfect-looking worlds sometimes held nasty surprises. Still, the initial data seemed promising. He pulled up the analysis on his datapad. Oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere. Liquid water covering 70% of the surface. Temperature range within acceptable parameters. Gravity at 1.0 standard units. He paused. "That's a bit high, but manageable." "Any signs of civilization?" asked Captain Threndock from her command station. "Yes, Captain." "Radio signals. Television broadcasts. They appear to be at industrial age development, possibly early space age." Kirchhoff's head tendrils swayed thoughtfully. "They call themselves humans. They call their planet Earth." The captain's scales shifted to a pleased purple color. "Excellent. Another species for the galactic consensus. Run the classification algorithm." Kirchhoff entered all the planetary data into the computer system. The galactic consensus had surveyed over 40,000 worlds in the past 3,000 cycles. They had developed a very accurate system for rating planetary danger levels. Class 1 worlds were completely safe. Class 10 worlds were hazardous enough to require special equipment. Anything above Class 10 was generally avoided. The computer processed the information. The result flashed on the screen. Class 4, moderately safe with minor hazards. "Class 4, Kirchhoff announced. "Standard precautions should be sufficient." Captain Threndock nodded. "Prepare first contact protocols. Let's introduce ourselves to these humans." Over the next several days, the crew of the Harmonious Traverse studied human broadcasts. They watched what humans called movies and television shows. They listened to music and news reports. They analyzed human language and began learning English, which seemed to be a common tongue. "These humans are fascinating," Veltrin said, watching a human entertainment program. "They tell such creative stories. Look at this one. It's about a human fighting a giant creature they call a bear. Obviously fictional. No species would survive close combat with a creature that size." Kirchhoff watched the screen with interest. "Their fiction does seem quite violent. Perhaps they have aggressive tendencies. We should be careful." "Most species tell stories about conquering dangers they never actually faced," Veltrin replied. "It's a common psychological pattern. These humans probably evolved on a very safe world and create violent fiction to add excitement to their peaceful lives." Kirchhoff wasn't entirely convinced, but the data supported her theory. The classification system had rated Earth as Class 4. That meant it was safer than Kirchhoff's own homeworld, which was Class 3. He had grown up in a peaceful environment with few natural dangers. Perhaps these humans had too. The Harmonious Traverse sent a message to Earth. It took several hours for the humans to respond. When they did, their message was warm and welcoming. They invited the survey team to land and meet with their representatives. "They seem friendly enough," Captain Threndock said. "Kirchhoff, Veltrin, Jen Morris. You 3 will compose the landing party. Standard diplomatic protocols. Gather information about their culture, biology, and society. Determine if they're suitable candidates for consensus membership." The landing party prepared carefully. They wore their formal diplomatic robes. They studied human customs to avoid giving offense. They practiced human greetings and polite phrases. Everything had to be perfect for first contact. The shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere. Kirchhoff watched through the viewport as they dropped through thick clouds. The air seemed remarkably turbulent. The shuttle bounced and shook. "Is this normal atmospheric behavior?" Jen Morris asked nervously. The ship's medical officer didn't enjoy flying in unstable conditions. "The computer says it's within acceptable ranges," the pilot replied. "Though I admit it's rougher than most worlds I've visited." They landed at a place called New York City. Humans had built enormous structures that reached far into the sky. The landing party stared in amazement. Most species built underground or in low, stable structures. Building upward seemed inefficient and dangerous. A group of humans waited near the landing pad. Kirchhoff studied them as he descended the shuttle ramp. They stood upright on 2 legs like his own species. They had bilateral symmetry with 2 arms and 2 legs. Their skin was smooth and came in various shades of brown and pink. They wore colorful clothing, but what struck Kirshelf most was how solid they looked. Most species in the galactic consensus were thin and light, adapted for efficient movement in low gravity. These humans looked dense and heavy. Their muscles were clearly visible beneath their skin. They looked like they were built for physical labor. "Welcome to Earth," said the lead human, a female with dark skin and black hair arranged in small coils. "I'm Ambassador Chen. We're honored to meet you." Kirshelf performed the formal consensus greeting gesture. "I am Kirshelf, senior xenobiologist. This is Veltrin, xenoanthropologist, and Jen Morris, medical officer. We represent the galactic consensus. We come in peace and friendship." Ambassador Chen smiled, showing her teeth. Kirshelf tried not to react. Showing teeth was a threat display in many species, but he had learned from human broadcasts that humans smiled to show happiness, not aggression. "We've prepared accommodations for you," Chen said. "We thought you might like to tour our planet and learn about our cultures. We have great diversity here on Earth." "That would be most educational," Kirshelf replied. Over the next few days, the aliens met with human leaders from different nations. They toured various human cities. They observed human daily life. And slowly, Kirshelf began to feel uneasy. The humans seemed nice. They were polite and hospitable. They answered every question patiently. But little things kept bothering Kirshelf. The gravity, for instance. 1.0 standard units didn't sound like much on paper. But after walking around all day, Kirshelf's legs ached. His spine hurt. He wasn't used to carrying so much weight. Yet the humans moved easily, even the small ones they called children. The atmosphere bothered him too. The oxygen percentage was higher than he was used to. It made him feel slightly dizzy. Everything seemed to burn more easily here. Yet humans breathed this air constantly with no ill effects. And the sun. Oh, the sun. Kirshelf had to wear protective eyewear whenever he went outside. The star Earth orbited produced intense radiation. Most of that radiation was filtered by Earth's atmosphere, but what remained was still uncomfortable. The humans walked under it with bare skin, soaking it up. "Don't you find the sunlight painful?" he asked Ambassador Chen during one outdoor meeting. Chen looked surprised. "Painful? No, it feels good. We need sunlight to produce vitamin D in our skin." "Why? Is it bothering you?" "I'm just not accustomed to such intense stellar radiation," Kirshelf admitted. Chen's expression became concerned. "Oh, I'm sorry. We should have thought of that. Let me get you an umbrella." She produced a device that blocked the sunlight. Kirshelf stood gratefully in its shade. But he couldn't stop thinking about how humans walked around under that burning star like it was nothing. That night, back in their shuttle, Kirshelf reviewed his notes. Veltrin was excited about everything she had learned. Jen Morris looked exhausted. "These humans are wonderful," Veltrin said. "So diverse, so creative, so friendly. They'll make excellent members of the consensus." "Yes," Kirshelf said slowly. "But don't you think there's something unusual about them? They're very strong, very tolerant of extreme conditions." "They evolved on a Class 4 world," Veltrin replied. "That's only slightly more challenging than a Class 3. It makes sense they'd be slightly more robust than us." Kirshelf wanted to agree, but something nagged at him. Something felt wrong. He pulled up the planetary classification algorithm again. He looked at the data they had entered days ago. Surface temperature, atmospheric composition, gravity, weather patterns, weight, weather patterns. They had only entered baseline data. They hadn't accounted for variation. Earth's weather varied dramatically by location and season. He had learned that from the humans. Kirshelf began entering new data. Temperature extremes, storm intensity, seismic activity, atmospheric pressure variations. All the things he had observed and measured during their visit. The numbers climbed higher. And higher. Class 5, Class 6. Class 7. Kirshelf's secondary hearts began beating faster. Had they made a mistake? Had they miscalculated? He kept entering data. The classification kept rising. Class 8, Class 9, Class 10. "That can't be right," he whispered. But the computer didn't lie, and he hadn't even finished entering all the data yet. Ambassador Chen had planned a comprehensive tour of Earth for the alien visitors. She wanted them to see the diversity of human civilization and natural environments. Kirshelf agreed enthusiastically, though his concerns from the previous night still troubled him. Perhaps seeing more of Earth would prove his worries were unfounded. Their first stop was a nature preserve in a place called Colorado. The humans said it would be a good introduction to Earth's natural beauty. The shuttle flew over mountains that reached impossibly high into the sky. Kirschelf felt dizzy just looking at them. How do those mountains stay stable? Jen Morris asked nervously. They must be thousands of units high. The Rocky Mountains are relatively young, explained their human guide, a cheerful man named Dr. Martinez. They're still growing, actually. Tectonic activity pushes them higher every year. Still growing? Feltrin's voice rose in pitch. You mean your planet's crust is actively unstable? Well, yes. We get earthquakes sometimes. Nothing to worry about, though. We build our structures to withstand them. Kirschelf exchanged glances with Jen Morris. On most civilized worlds, tectonic activity had settled down billions of cycles ago. Active geology was considered extremely dangerous. But Dr. Martinez spoke about earthquakes the way someone might mention a light rain shower. They landed near a forest. The air smelled strange to Kirschelf. Sharp and fresh, but also thick with organic compounds. Trees stretched upward, their branches swaying in the wind. The wind itself was stronger than Kirschelf preferred. It made his robes flutter uncomfortably. This is one of our conservation areas, Dr. Martinez said proudly. We protect the natural habitat here for wildlife. Wildlife? Feltrin asked. Animals. The creatures that live here naturally. Come on, I'll show you. They walked along a path through the forest. Kirschelf noticed movement in the trees. Something was watching them. His survival instincts, usually quiet, suddenly screamed warnings. Dr. Martinez, he said carefully, what kind of animals live here? Oh, lots of species. Deer, elk, mountain lions, bears, wolves. Also smaller creatures like rabbits, squirrels, birds. Mountain lions? Wolves, bears? Jen Morris's voice was faint. Those are predators. Sure, but they usually avoid people. As long as we don't surprise them or get between a mother and her young, we're fine. Usually avoid people. Usually. Kirschelf's legs felt weak. They were walking through territory occupied by multiple predator species, and the human thought it was fine. They emerged from the forest into an open area. A human family was having something called a picnic. 2 adult humans and 3 small humans sat on a blanket eating food. But what made Kirschelf freeze in terror was the creature lying next to them. It was huge, easily the size of a small human. It had 4 legs, a mouth full of sharp teeth, and powerful jaw muscles. Its eyes tracked their approach. A predator. An obvious predator. Dr. Martinez, Kirschelf whispered urgently. There's a predator approaching those humans. We need to warn them. Dr. Martinez looked confused, then followed Kirschelf's gaze. He laughed. Oh, that's just a dog. That's Max. He belongs to that family. Belongs to them? Yes, he's their pet. Dogs are domesticated. They're friendly. The human family noticed them and waved. The small human, a female child, ran toward them. The massive predator ran beside her. Kirschelf wanted to flee. Every instinct told him to run. But he was a scientist and a diplomat. He held his ground. The child stopped in front of them, smiling. The predator sat beside her, its tongue hanging out of its mouth. It was panting. Kirschelf could see every tooth in its jaws. Hi, I'm Emma, this is Max. Do you want to pet him? Pet him? Kirschelf's voice came out as a squeak. Yeah, like this. Emma put her small hand on the predator's head and stroked its fur. The creature's tail wagged back and forth. Kirschelf couldn't believe what he was seeing. A small, vulnerable human child was touching a predator, and the predator seemed to enjoy it. This violated everything he knew about predator-prey relationships. Humans domesticated dogs thousands of years ago, Dr. Martinez explained. They're our companions. Most human families have pets. Dogs, cats, birds, fish, sometimes reptiles. You live with predators deliberately? Jen Morris looked like she might faint. They're not really predators anymore. Well, I mean, technically they are, but they're our friends. The aliens declined to pet Max. The human family seemed disappointed but understanding. As they walked away, Kirschelf heard the child ask her parents why the aliens were scared of Max. He's just a puppy, she said. That creature was a puppy. A young one. Kirschelf didn't want to imagine what a fully grown version looked like. Their next stop was a human dwelling. Ambassador Chen had invited them to her home for a meal. This was meant to be a great honor. Kirschelf was beginning to dread what it might involve. Chen's home was on the 20th level of a tall building. 20 levels up in the air. Kirschelf tried not to think about it. The view from her windows showed the entire city spread below them. It was beautiful and terrifying. Please sit down, Chen said, gesturing to furniture. Can I get you something to drink? Water? Tea? Water would be acceptable, Kirchhoff said cautiously. Chen went to her food preparation area and returned with glasses of clear liquid. Kirchhoff sipped carefully. Jen Morris pulled out a scanner and analyzed the water while pretending to admire the view. Kirchhoff, Jen Morris whispered urgently. This water contains dissolved minerals at concentrations that would be toxic to 417 consensus species. What? Kirchhoff nearly dropped his glass. Calcium, magnesium, trace metals. For humans, this is apparently normal drinking water. For us, it's poison. Kirchhoff set down his glass very carefully. Ambassador Chen, thank you for the water, but I'm afraid our biology is incompatible with it. Chen looked horrified. Oh no, I'm so sorry. I should have asked. Let me get you distilled water. She returned with different water that Jen Morris approved as safe. But Kirchhoff couldn't stop thinking about it. Humans drank water that would kill most species. They didn't even think about it. Chen had prepared food for them based on their dietary requirements. She had also prepared food for herself. Kirchhoff watched in fascination and horror as she ate. First, she consumed a vegetable called a pepper. She bit into it and smiled. I love spicy food, she said. Jen Morris scanned the pepper. That plant produces capsaicin, she reported quietly. It's a chemical defense mechanism to prevent creatures from eating it. The burning sensation is literally a pain response. Why would she eat something that hurts? Humans have very high pain tolerance, Veltrin suggested. But she sounded uncertain. Next, Chen ate something she called cheese. This is made from fermented milk, she explained. Bacteria break down the proteins. It's delicious. She's eating bacteria cultures, Jen Morris said faintly, on purpose, for pleasure. The meal continued with more horrifying revelations. Humans consumed plants that produce toxins. They ate the flesh of animals. They cultured bacteria in their food intentionally, and they seemed to love it all. Tell me, Kirchhoff said carefully, do humans eat like this normally? Or is this special in some way? Oh, this is just a regular meal, Chen replied. Though I did try to make it more interesting for our guests. Would you like to try anything? No, thank you. We're quite satisfied with what you've provided. After the meal, a storm rolled in. The sky darkened rapidly. Wind rattled the windows. Then the lightning started. Massive electrical discharges split the sky. Thunder shook the building. Rain pounded against the windows so hard Kirchhoff thought the glass might break. On most civilized worlds, this would be called a catastrophic weather event. Emergency shelters would open. Everyone would take cover. Ambassador Chen walked to the window and looked out. Beautiful, isn't it? I love thunderstorms. Beautiful? Kirchhoff joined her at the window, though his legs trembled. This is normal weather? Sure. We get these all the time, especially in summer. Sometimes they cause problems if they're really severe. Tornadoes, flooding, that kind of thing. But this is just a regular storm. Just a regular storm. Kirchhoff watched atmospheric electrical discharges that would be classified as natural disasters on any other world. The humans considered them entertainment. Through the window, he could see human children playing in the rain. They ran through puddles, laughing and splashing. The lightning didn't bother them. The thunder didn't scare them. They were having fun. Ambassador Chen, Kirchhoff said slowly, has anyone ever told you that your planet might be unusually dangerous? Chen looked surprised. Dangerous Earth? No, not really. I mean, we have some hazards. But every planet does, right? We consider Earth quite pleasant. Why do you ask? No reason. Just curious. That night, Kirchhoff worked late in the shuttle. He entered every piece of data they had collected. The gravity, the atmospheric composition, the stellar radiation, the weather patterns, the seismic activity, the predator density, the microbial diversity, everything. The classification algorithm processed it all. The number on the screen climbed higher and higher. It passed Class 10, it kept going. Class 11, Class 12, Class 13. When it finally stopped, Kirchhoff stared at the screen in disbelief. Class 16. Extreme hazard. Quarantine recommended. Earth wasn't a Class 4 world. It wasn't even close. Earth was one of the most dangerous planets in the known galaxy, and humans lived here. The emergency transmission reached Consensus Central at the speed of quantum communication. Kirchhoff's report appeared on screens across the administrative complex. Within minutes, alarms were ringing. High Administrator Zekthar read the report 3 times. Then he read it again. It had to be wrong. The classification algorithm was supposed to be foolproof. They had refined it over 3,000 cycles of surveying planets. It had never been wrong before. But Kirschelf was their best xenobiologist. He had served for 40 cycles. He didn't make mistakes, and his data was thorough. Extremely thorough. Zekthar called an emergency session of the High Council. Within hours, representatives from all major species in the consensus gathered in the council chamber. Some attended in person. Others appeared as holographic projections. This council is now in session, Zekthar announced. We face a situation without precedent. Kirschelf, please present your findings. The holographic image of Kirschelf appeared at the center of the chamber. He looked exhausted. His head tendrils drooped. But his voice was steady and professional. Esteemed council members, I must report a critical error in our initial classification of the planet designated as Earth. Our preliminary assessment classified it as Class 4. However, detailed analysis reveals the true classification is Class 16. The chamber erupted in noise. Council members shouted questions. Some thought it was a joke. Others were already calculating the implications. Silence. Zekthar's voice boomed across the chamber. Let him continue. Kirschelf displayed his data. Charts and graphs filled the air. The council members fell silent as they absorbed the information. Let me begin with gravity, Kirschelf said. Earth's gravity is 1.0 standard units. This is nearly double what most spacefaring species evolved under. For comparison, 73% of consensus species evolved under gravity between 0.4 and 0.7 standard units. A council member from Thrakal raised her manipulator appendage. But surely humans must be extremely muscular to handle such gravity. They must be heavily built, slow-moving? That's what I expected, Kirschelf replied. But no, humans move with remarkable speed and agility. They can run, jump, and perform complex physical tasks that would exhaust most species. A human child playing has more endurance than a trained Thrakal athlete. He brought up the next dataset. Atmospheric composition. Earth's atmosphere is 21% oxygen. For most species, anything above 15% oxygen is toxic or presents extreme fire hazards. On Earth, everything is flammable. Their atmosphere makes combustion extremely easy. How do humans survive? Someone asked. They evolved to handle it. But there's more. Let me show you the stellar radiation data. The graphs showed radiation levels. Several council members gasped. The peak wavelengths and intensity would require protective equipment on most worlds. Earth's parent star produces intense ultraviolet radiation, Kirschelf continued. Most of it is filtered by their atmosphere. But what remains would still damage the cellular structure of 456 consensus species. Humans walk under this radiation daily. They call it sunbathing. They do it for pleasure. This is impossible, declared Councillor Mervick. No species could evolve under such conditions. I assure you they did. And it gets worse. Kirschelf pulled up geological data. Earth is tectonically active. The planetary crust is still shifting. Earthquakes are common. Volcanic eruptions occur regularly. The humans build their cities anyway. They consider this normal. He showed weather data next. Their atmospheric dynamics generate violent storms. Wind speeds that would be classified as natural disasters on most worlds are called breezy on Earth. They have rotating storm systems called hurricanes that release energy equivalent to multiple fusion reactors. They have electrical storms where atmospheric discharge reaches billions of volts. Surely humans take shelter during these events, asked a counselor. Some do. But I personally witnessed human children playing outside during an electrical storm. Their parents saw no danger in it. Kirschelf paused, letting that sink in. Then he continued with biological data. Earth's biosphere is incredibly hostile. The microbial diversity alone is staggering. Bacteria, viruses, fungi, parasites. Humans are constantly under biological attack from organisms trying to consume them. Their immune systems fight off invasions every single day. For most consensus species, exposure to Earth's biosphere would result in death within days. What about predators? Someone asked. Oh yes, the predators. Kirschelf displayed images of Earth's fauna. Humans evolved as prey animals competing in an ecosystem filled with predators larger and stronger than themselves. They survived by developing endurance, intelligence, and social cooperation. He showed a picture of a bear. The council chamber filled with frightened noises. This creature is called a bear. It can weigh up to 800 kilograms. It has claws 10 centimeters long and can crush a human skull with one bite. Humans consider them beautiful. They take their children to see them in nature preserves. More images appeared. Wolves, mountain lions, sharks, crocodiles, snakes. Humans didn't just survive in this environment, Kirchhoff said. They became the apex predator. They hunted the other predators. They developed a hunting technique called persistence hunting. They would chase prey for hours, sometimes days, until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. No other predator on Earth could match their endurance. The council chamber was silent now. Every member was staring at the images and data. But here is what troubles me most, Kirchhoff said quietly. Humans don't know their planet is dangerous. They think Earth is pleasant. They call it home with affection. When I suggested their world might be hazardous, Ambassador Chen seemed confused. She considers Earth comfortable. Counselor Mervik stood up. This is clearly a problem. These humans are dangerous. They evolved in conditions that would kill any civilized species. They must be aggressive, violent, hostile. Actually, Veltrin's holographic image appeared beside Kirchhoff. That's what I need to address. I've spent the past 2 weeks studying human culture, psychology, and behavior, and I've found something remarkable. What? Zekthar asked. Humans are not aggressive or hostile. In fact, they're unusually compassionate. Their literature, their art, their moral philosophies all emphasize cooperation and protecting weaker beings. They have a concept called empathy that is central to their psychology. They instinctively try to help others. That makes no sense, Mervik protested. Species that evolve in hostile environments become hostile themselves. Usually, yes, Veltrin agreed. But humans are different. I believe their environment forced them to develop strong social bonds to survive. A human alone would die quickly on Earth, but humans working together could survive anything. So they evolved to be intensely social and protective of their group members. She displayed examples: human rescue services, medical care, social welfare systems, stories about humans risking their lives to save strangers. They even form protective bonds with other species, Veltrin continued. Remember the predators Kirchhoff mentioned? Dogs and cats? Humans domesticated them thousands of years ago. They brought predators into their homes and families. They formed emotional bonds with them. Why? Someone asked. Because humans have an almost compulsive need to nurture and protect. They bond with anything. I've seen humans form emotional attachments to plants, to robots, to inanimate objects. Their capacity for empathy extends far beyond their own species. Zekthar listened to all of this carefully. Then he spoke. So we have a species that evolved on the most dangerous planet we've ever encountered. They are physically stronger and more resilient than any consensus species, but they are also compassionate and cooperative. The question is, what do we do about them? The debate began immediately. Some council members argued for quarantine. Earth should be isolated, they said. Humans were too dangerous to integrate into galactic society. What if their strength and resilience made them aggressive? What if they decided to conquer other worlds? Others argued for cautious contact. Humans might be valuable allies. Their resilience could be useful, but they should be carefully monitored and controlled. A few argued for full integration. Humans deserve the same rights as any other sentient species. Fear was not a reason to discriminate. The debate went on for hours. Data was analyzed. Precedents were examined. Scenarios were discussed, but no consensus emerged. Finally, Counselor Theraxis of the Wisdom Caste spoke. She was ancient, one of the oldest beings in the consensus. When she spoke, everyone listened. I have reviewed Kirchhoff's data carefully, she said, and I have a question. In all our history, has any species from a Class 8 or higher world ever achieved spaceflight? The chamber went silent. Zekthar checked the records. No, he said finally. The highest classification for any spacefaring species is Class 7. Most are Class 5 or below. Exactly, Theraxis said. Because hostile environments tend to trap species in survival mode. They never develop the stability needed for advanced civilization. But humans did. They not only survived a Class 16 world, they thrived. They built a global civilization. They split the atom. They reached their moon. They developed computers and medicine and art. She paused, letting her words sink in. This is unprecedented. We need more information. 6 months had passed since the Council's decision. Veltrin had volunteered to remain on Earth and study human culture more deeply. She wanted to understand what made humans so different from every other species in the galaxy. She had set up a small research station in a city called Seattle. The humans had been incredibly helpful. They provided her with equipment, living space, and unlimited access to their libraries and historical records. She spent her days reading, observing, and interviewing humans about their lives and beliefs. The more she learned, the more fascinated she became. Veltrin was currently reading human literature. Not scientific papers or historical documents, but stories. Fiction. The tales humans told each other revealed so much about their psychology. She picked up a book called The Lord of the Rings. It was thousands of pages long and told the story of small, weak creatures called hobbits, who saved their world from evil. The hobbits succeeded not through strength or power, but through friendship, determination, and the courage to keep going when everything seemed hopeless. This theme appeared everywhere in human stories. The underdog who wins, the weak who become strong, the hero who perseveres against impossible odds. Human fiction was filled with these narratives. Veltrin realized something important. These weren't just stories. They were cultural instructions. They taught humans how to survive. On a Class 16 death world, giving up meant death. So humans taught their children never to give up. Ever. She found another common theme in human stories. Protection of the vulnerable. In almost every human culture, harming children or the weak was considered one of the worst crimes. Heroes were defined by protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. Veltrin interviewed a human teacher named Sarah Chen. Not related to Ambassador Chen, apparently. Human naming conventions were complicated. "Tell me about human children," Veltrin asked. "How do you raise them?" Sarah smiled. She taught at something called a kindergarten, where very young humans learn social skills. "Children are precious to us," Sarah said. "They're vulnerable and dependent for a long time compared to most animals. Human babies are almost completely helpless. They can't walk, can't feed themselves, can't survive alone. So we evolved strong protective instincts toward them." Long does it take for a human to become independent? Physically? Maybe 12 or 13 years before they're truly capable. Emotionally and socially, humans don't really finish developing until their mid-20s. Some would say we never stop growing. Veltrin found this remarkable. Most species reached maturity quickly. Long childhoods were a luxury only stable environments could support. But on Earth, humans somehow maintained extended childhoods despite the dangers. That meant human communities were incredibly protective of their young. "What do you teach them?" Veltrin asked. "At kindergarten age?" "Mostly social skills. How to share, how to be kind, how to work together, how to express feelings with words instead of actions. We teach them that everyone deserves respect and kindness. Even those who are different, especially those who are different. We teach children to be curious about differences, not afraid of them. To include others, not exclude them." Veltrin thought about this. Human children were trained from birth to be inclusive and compassionate. In a hostile environment, this made sense. The tribe survived by sticking together. Anyone excluded might die, so humans developed deep moral instincts about inclusion and protection. She also studied human medicine. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a physician, explained human medical science to her. "Our bodies are constantly under attack," Dr. Tanaka explained. "Bacteria, viruses, parasites. Our immune systems are incredibly sophisticated. We produce billions of white blood cells. We generate antibodies. We have multiple layers of defense. What happens when someone gets sick? We use medicine to help the body fight. Antibiotics kill bacteria. Antiviral slow virus reproduction. We've developed vaccines that train the immune system to recognize threats before infection." Dr. Tanaka showed Veltrin some of their medicines. Jen Morris had been right to be cautious. Many human medicines would be lethal to other species. But these same medicines were remarkably effective against diseases that plagued the consensus. "Your medicine is very aggressive," Veltrin observed. "It has to be. Earth's microbes are aggressive too. We're in a constant evolutionary arms race with pathogens." Veltrin wondered if human medicine might help other species. Humans had evolved to fight biological threats that most species had never encountered. Their knowledge could be valuable. She also studied human psychology. Dr. James Rodriguez, a psychologist, helped her understand human behavior. Humans are social creatures, Dr. Rodriguez explained. We need connection with others. Isolation is actually harmful to human health. Studies show that lonely people get sick more often and die younger. Why is social connection so important? Evolution. Humans who cooperated with others survived. Humans who were isolated died. So we evolved to need social bonds. We literally feel pain when we're socially excluded, and we feel pleasure when we're included and accepted. This explained so much. Humans bonded easily because they were built to bond. Their survival had depended on it. What about when humans encounter someone different from themselves? Veltrin asked. Someone from another culture or species? There's an initial fear response to anything unfamiliar. That's natural. But humans also have strong curiosity. We want to understand new things, and once we recognize someone as a thinking, feeling being, our empathy usually kicks in. We start caring about them, even if they're completely alien. Look at how we treat you, Doctor. Rodriguez smiled. You're about as alien as it gets, but humans are fascinated by you. We want to know you, understand you, help you feel welcome. That's very human. Veltrin had noticed this. Everywhere she went, humans were friendly. Children waved at her. Adults offered help. People asked questions about her home world and culture. Nobody seemed afraid of her, even though she looked nothing like a human. She was beginning to understand. Humans had survived by being adaptable and by forming strong social groups. They extended those protective instincts to anyone they recognized as part of their group, and they were willing to include almost anyone in that group. 3 months into her study, something happened that changed everything. The Harmonious Traverse was still in orbit around Earth. The crew was conducting ongoing studies and serving as liaisons. Then their main drive system failed catastrophically. Captain Threndock sent an emergency message to Earth. We have a critical failure. Life support is failing. We have maybe 48 hours of power remaining. We can't repair it ourselves. We're going to die. The response came within minutes. Not from one government, but from all of them. Every major nation on Earth mobilized to help. Veltrin watched from the surface as humans launched an emergency rescue operation. They worked through the night. Engineers from different countries collaborated, pooling their knowledge. They jury-rigged solutions using equipment that wasn't designed for space use. They took risks that no consensus species would consider acceptable. A human named Commander Lisa Park led the rescue team. She and 5 other humans boarded a hastily modified shuttle. They flew to the Harmonious Traverse wearing spacesuits that were basically just pressurized fabric. Veltrin could see the specifications. Those suits provided minimal protection. The humans were exposing themselves to hard vacuum radiation and extreme temperatures. Why are they taking such risks? Veltrin asked Sarah, who was watching with her. Because people need help, Sarah said simply. What else would they do? Commander Park and her team reached the Harmonious Traverse. They worked in conditions that should have killed them. The temperature fluctuations alone should have been lethal. The radiation exposure was dangerous. They worked for 16 hours straight with minimal rest. They replaced the failed components with human-made equipment. They rerouted power systems. They rebuilt life support using parts that weren't designed for alien biology, but were modified on the spot. When they finished, the Harmonious Traverse was operational again. Not pretty, not elegant, but functional. The crew would live. Commander Park's team returned to Earth exhausted and radiation sick, but they were alive. And so was the crew of the Harmonious Traverse. Captain Threndock sent a message to the human governments. We owe you our lives. How can we ever repay this debt? The response from the United Nations surprised everyone. You don't owe us anything. We're glad we could help. That's what neighbors do. Veltrin included this incident in her report to the consensus. She explained what she had learned about humans, their literature, their child rearing, their medicine, their psychology, and this rescue. Humans are not dangerous despite their world, she wrote. They are compassionate because of it. Earth forced them to cooperate or die, so they evolved to protect, to include, to help. These instincts are so strong that they extend to complete strangers, even alien strangers who look nothing like them. I believe humans would be valuable members of the consensus, not because of their physical strength or resilience, though those are impressive, but because of their compassion, because of their instinct to help anyone in need. The galaxy needs more of that, not less. She sent the report and waited for the consensus to respond. The Grand Assembly chamber was filled to capacity. Representatives from all 847 member species of the galactic consensus had gathered for the historic vote. The question was simple but carried enormous weight. Should humanity be offered membership in the consensus? High Administrator Zekthar called the assembly to order. The vast chamber fell silent. We are here to decide the fate of a species unlike any we have encountered, Zekthar began, the humans of Earth. I will now open the floor for final arguments before the vote. Councillor Mervik was the first to speak. He had opposed human membership from the beginning. The facts are clear, Mervik said. His voice echoed through the chamber. Humans evolved on a Class 16 Deathworld. They are physically stronger than any species in this assembly. They have higher pain tolerance. They heal faster. They are more aggressive and more resilient. Allowing them into the consensus creates a dangerous precedent. He displayed images of Earth, the violent storms, the predators, the geological instability. Look at what they consider normal. They live with predators as pets. They eat toxins for pleasure. They expose themselves to stellar radiation. Their children play in electrical storms. This is not a species adapted to civilized life. This is a species adapted to warfare. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Many species feared human strength. They imagined humans conquering planets, dominating weaker species, spreading across the galaxy like an unstoppable force. If we admit humans to the consensus, we put every peaceful species at risk, Mervik concluded. I vote no. Several other council members spoke in support of Mervik's position. They listed concerns about human aggression, human unpredictability, human physical capabilities. The arguments were logical and based on reasonable fears. Then Kirshelf stood to speak. He had been studying humans for a full cycle now. He knew them better than almost any other non-human. Councillor Mervik is correct about one thing, Kirshelf said. Humans are stronger than us. But he is wrong about what that means. Kirshelf displayed his own data. Not images of Earth's dangers, but images of humans. Teachers with children, doctors with patients, engineers building homes, artists creating beauty. I have walked among humans for months. I have seen how they live. Yes, they are strong. Yes, they evolved in a hostile environment. But they did not become monsters. They became something remarkable. He showed footage from the rescue of the Harmonious Traverse, Commander Park and her team working in impossible conditions to save alien lives. When our ship was dying, humans risked their lives to save us. They didn't ask what they would gain. They didn't demand payment. They helped because someone needed help. That is who humans are. Kirshelf's head tendrils swayed with emotion. I was afraid of humans when I first learned the truth about Earth. I thought they would be dangerous. But I was wrong. Humans are gentle with those weaker than themselves. They protect children, even alien children. They form emotional bonds with other species. They have a concept they call mercy that is central to their morality. Earth made them strong, yes, but it also made them kind. Because on Earth, cooperation was survival. Protecting the weak was survival. Helping others was survival. These behaviors are not just cultural. They are biological. Humans are built to care. The chamber was quiet now. Everyone was listening. We have a choice, Kirshelf said. We can reject humans out of fear, or we can recognize them for what they truly are. A species that survived the impossible and emerged with their compassion intact. The galaxy needs humans, not as conquerors, but as helpers, as protectors, as friends. He sat down. Veltrin stood up next. I have lived among humans, she said. I have studied their history, their culture, their psychology. Let me tell you what I learned. She displayed human art, paintings and sculptures, music and poetry, stories and films. Humans create beauty. In every culture across their entire history, they have made art. They don't just survive. They find meaning in existence. They express emotions through creativity. They tell stories about hope and love and sacrifice. She showed images of human families, parents with children, friends together, communities supporting each other. Humans form deep emotional bonds. They care for their elderly. They protect their young. They mourn their dead. They celebrate their victories together and comfort each other in defeat. They are perhaps the most emotionally sophisticated species I have ever studied. Veltrin pulled up medical data. Human medicine could revolutionize healthcare across the consensus. They have fought diseases we have never encountered. Their immune systems are incredibly sophisticated. Their doctors have developed techniques we never imagined. She showed images of human schools and universities. Humans value education. They teach their children not just facts, but ethics. They emphasize critical thinking, creativity, and moral development. They raise each generation to be better than the last. Are humans perfect? No, they have conflicts. They make mistakes. They struggle with prejudice and fear like any species. But they work constantly to improve themselves. They have made tremendous moral progress in just a few thousand years. Beltran's voice grew passionate. We have the opportunity to welcome a species that exemplifies the best values of the consensus. Cooperation, compassion, courage, innovation. If we reject them, we reject everything we claim to stand for. She sat down. The chamber erupted in discussion. Arguments flew back and forth. Some species remained fearful. Others were convinced. The debate continued for hours. Finally, Counselor Theraxis rose to speak. The ancient being commanded instant respect and silence. I have lived for 3,000 cycles, she said slowly. I have seen countless species join the consensus. I have seen the galaxy change and grow, and I have learned one truth above all others. She paused, looking around the chamber. Diversity makes us stronger, not weaker. The consensus succeeds because we bring together different perspectives, different abilities, different ways of thinking. We are greater than the sum of our parts. Humans are different from us, profoundly different. They evolved in conditions we find terrifying. They possess abilities we lack. But that is exactly why we need them. Theraxis displayed a star map showing consensus space. We have explored less than 3% of the galaxy. There are dangers we haven't encountered, challenges we haven't faced. We need species who can handle extremes, who can adapt, who can survive and thrive in hostile conditions. But more than that, we need species who remind us why we formed the consensus in the first place. Humans embody our highest ideals. When they see someone in trouble, they help. When they encounter someone different, they try to understand. When they face the impossible, they refuse to give up. I vote yes, and I encourage all of you to do the same. Not because humans are perfect, but because they are exactly what the galaxy needs. Theraxis sat down. The chamber fell silent. Then Zekthar called for the vote. All in favor of offering humanity membership in the Galactic Consensus, indicate now. Lights began appearing across the chamber. Green for yes, red for no. The voting continued for several minutes as every representative made their choice. When it was done, Zekthar reviewed the results. He looked up, his expression unreadable. The measure passes. Humanity is invited to join the Galactic Consensus. The chamber erupted in noise. Some species celebrated. Others protested. But the decision was made. 3 years later, the galaxy had changed in ways no one predicted. Humans had accepted membership enthusiastically. They had also accepted the conditions that came with it. Human diplomats attended sensitivity training to learn what was dangerous to other species. Earth was classified as a restricted world. Visitors needed extensive preparation and safety equipment. Most species would never set foot on Earth, but humans had spread across the galaxy in other ways. Search and rescue operations across consensus space were now led by human teams. When ships were stranded in dangerous conditions, when stations failed in hostile environments, when disasters struck in places no other species could survive, humans responded. They had become the galaxy's emergency responders. Human doctors worked in hospitals throughout the consensus. Their understanding of hostile biology made them excellent at treating diseases. Their medicines, carefully adapted for alien biology, saved countless lives. Human medical techniques became standard practice. Human engineers specialized in extreme environments. They built stations around stars too hot for most species to approach. They established mining operations in high-gravity environments. They developed life support systems that could function in toxic atmospheres. But perhaps most surprisingly, humans became teachers. A human named Sarah Chen, the kindergarten teacher Veltrin had interviewed, now ran a school on Consensus Central. She taught alien children using human educational techniques. She emphasized empathy, cooperation, and emotional intelligence. Her students came from 20 different species, and she treated all of them with the same gentle care she had shown human children. "Children are children," Sarah said when asked about her methods. "Doesn't matter what species, they need love, patience, and guidance. They need to feel safe and valued." That's universal. Other humans followed her example. Human teaching methods spread throughout the consensus.